Thanks, Solar. Hopefully everybody can hear and see me now. Am I? So everybody here? Everybody can see me, I hope. Somebody chime in, let me know. Because I think I got it. I hit go live. I got level meters. Ooh, I forgot to shave, but oh well. um, all right, good. Loud and clear. Thanks, John. All right, so let me close this window. Well, not that one. All right, very good. Well, thanks everyone again for joining me today. And I I've never done tethering, Roy. Wow, questions are coming out right away here. Thanks. Thanks for everybody chiming in. I don't know what the delay is between the when you guys type something and when I'm reading it. But good. I'm glad everything looks and sounds good. Hopefully the live streams will get better with time, because I put my green screen just behind me now instead of off to the side, because there was, I don't know, that other sound panel thing was so distracting. Yeah, basic green. Yeah, I don't know how to activate the green screen yet to make it like some fancy pants background, but I had about an hour before the live stream to set up, and then my sister calls, and then we talk for like an hour. So all I was able to do is just move the green screen into position, but I haven't figured out how to make it do anything. So if I have to do any tutorials or anything, I think etc. That's about all I can do, and but that's fine. So, but I did write a couple of notes down about what I was going to cover today. And then, of course, I'll always answer your questions. That's really the priority of this live stream, is for me to be able to connect with you guys directly and answer questions that you might have from anything, like any of my videos or any videos that you've seen. Excuse me. But yeah, let me see. There's now in my description in this for this video, I put a lot of links in there today ahead of time, and they fall into the two or three categories. One is some channels I want you guys to check out. The Great Vanzina actually referred me to one. It's Ted Vieira. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Excuse me. I just took some allergy medicine, so like I said, I really need to prepare for these live streams better. So my nose is feeling weird. But yeah, Ted Vieira, the Great Vanzina was telling me about how he got into Fujifilm, and it was with some feedback or some videos that he saw on this channel. And this guy, he does Fujifilm, but he also does regular film, like cameras. He's kind of been doing that more lately. But he kind of reminds me of like Wolfman Jack from back in the day on the radio. Has this very deep, crusty voice, and he's a little bit monotone, but he talks, kind of in a I don't know. He talks about photography in general, and it's not related specifically to cameras and film and things like that. He really talks about just the craft itself. So I thought that was a really great channel you guys should check out. He has a lot of good videos. I have a lot of catching up to do on that channel as well, because I just found out about it, but I appreciate that. Okay, there's a question here. Jack mentioned that the day that the EM5 Mark III can only be used if the camera is turned off and that you can no longer use external power. Oh, I didn't know you could use external power on the EM5 Mark II, to be honest. That's news to me, but the M5 Mark III, yeah, only when the camera's off for charging. And like I said, I think there's some yeah, okay, so you used it. So that's good to know that you can use external power on the EM5 Mark II. Because yeah, time lapse, you know, you can go for hours, and you're not going to do that on a single battery. Um, the Mark III, do you only have the 30 minutes one battery? Would you give up? On the Mark III, do you only have the 30 minutes one battery? Would you give you? I'm not sure what the question is, but I guess, yeah, you should be able to go for over an hour on a battery on the M5 Mark III. Uh, oh, and the second stage external grip. Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. They have external power. Okay, I seem to barely remember. I don't have an EM5 Mark II, but I might have to get one now that you've mentioned that. That'll really expand my photography into areas that I can't do now with the ones that I have. And it's a great camera otherwise, you know. Um, wow, that's good to know. Thanks, Jack. Uh, oh, that's okay. That's all right. Trust me, I mess up so much with my live streams. It's not even funny. Hopefully, the audio won't cut out now because I did get a new keyboard. So here it is. This is awesome. It's a mechanical keyboard with Bluetooth and USB dual setup. But anyway, thanks everyone that made donations to help me pay for that thing. Man, let me tell you, that was really distracting. I'd start talking and the mute, you know, the keyboard would mute or the microphone would mute, and I didn't know it. So I'll be talking to myself for 15, 30 minutes sometimes. And I can't believe anybody even stuck around while I was just, you know, totally silent. Uh, but yeah, the USB thing, yeah, it on the Mark III is a problem. And I wouldn't charge a battery in camera anyway because I don't like the idea of generating heat inside the camera unnecessarily. And it's faster just to swap a battery, so I'll always buy a few extra pairs. Quick lens question from Troy. Have you or anyone there used the 33.5 macro? No, I have not used it, and I've looked at that lens, and I can tell you the only feedback I can get is you have to look at the close focusing distance on that lens because you have to get about this close to the subject to get the maximum magnification in macro mode. So I don't normally recommend 30 millimeters if you're going to get a macro lens. Get the 60 or use extension tubes. Extension tubes don't give you as much magnification, but if you use an extension tube on the 40 to 150 kit lens, I have a video on that, but that's a really good combination there. So you probably already have the 40 to 150 kit. You just get $25 extension tubes and you can get really nice macro work done with a good working distance. You know, you don't have to be so close to the subject. You can be this far away and still get very good magnification. But if you want true one-to-one magnification, get the 60 millimeter. Then you'll have some working distance at least. Because when you have to get this close to the subject, it's really hard to do macro work. Especially like bugs and things, they'll run away if you bring a camera that close. And then lighting is an issue too, because then the lens itself is blocking all of the light hitting the subject. So there's a lot of problems with using a very small millimeter macro lens. You know, the solutions are there, right? You can buy one of those ring mounts for ring lights, ring flashes for the front of the lens that goes around the front, but it's just adding cost and unnecessary bulk when I think a 60 millimeter will serve you a lot better. You're considering buying the EM1 Mark II, and I've been watching a lot of your videos. Thanks. Oh, thank you. So that wasn't really a question, but yeah, EM1 Mark II is a great camera, no question. And I recommend it if you plan on doing a lot of sports action and you're going to be using heavier, longer lenses, uh, because it has the grip already built in. If that's going to be your primary use, the M5 Mark III might be a better choice if you'd rather go small and light most of the time and use smaller primes, and that's the direction I'm going. Oh, hi, Fran. Thanks. Nice that you're visiting from France. Uh, okay, yeah, the Fuji. Yeah, sorry. Like I said, I try to answer the questions when they come up because that's really the priority here. But Solar, we'll talk about. I made some notes uh, that I do want to try and go over. Another question here is, what light and compact lens would you suggest for birding? Pro lenses are great, but a bit heavy and expensive. Okay, yeah, I did some birding with the kit lens 40 to 150, and then I upgraded to the 75 to 300. But you have to be in very good light. If it's cloudy out, then it has to be midday cloud, like where it's very bright anyway. Because when you're birding, you have to be shooting at like 1/2000th of a second uh, to catch them in flight, for example. And if they're smaller birds, you need 300 millimeters to get close enough so you're not cropping in, because you're going to crop in all the time when you're birding to like 1 megapixel probably. So you need to get as close as you can, either through the focal length or just moving forward, because a lot of times those small birds, you have to get close so that you can see all the details in the feathers and things. But yeah, the pro lenses, the 300 millimeter f4 Pro would be the only other choice maybe for birding. I don't think the 40 to 150 Pro lens, unless, like I said, you can get close all the time, makes a lot of sense. I'd rather use a 75 to 300 in good light. Oh, hi Stoic, how you doing? Yeah, a lot of regulars here. I appreciate that. Uh, let's see. Oh, good night, Jose. Sorry, I missed you. I do one on Sunday mornings, my time. Maybe that's a better timeline for you. Because it would probably be like Sunday evening for you over there. Ah, from Austria too. Wow, nice to meet you. I'm vacuuming my living room, listening and using headphones. It's almost 9 p.m. in Sweden. Oh, wow. I thought it'd be closer to 4:30 in Sweden about this time. No, I guess 9 o'clock makes sense. Yeah, because you guys are about 5 or 6 hours out. I think you were asking me in the community section about what time it would be in Sweden. I'm glad you could make it. Oh, Atlanta. Okay, so you're not too far. How do you reset without losing my sets? You really can't. The only option you might try is do a basic reset. So you go into the reset menu where it says full, but you can change that to say basic. And that'll reset, I think, all of the exposure settings, but it won't deep dive into everywhere and reset everything. So if you do a basic reset, it won't reset your my sets, but I think it'll reset all the exposure settings. If that's all you need to do. Any chance that Olympus add a 120p video to the M1 Mark II? There might be. I mean, I don't know why they didn't do it before when they had the last update for it, because all of the hardware is there to do it, just like in the EM1X and EM5 Mark III. So I think they can. I don't know what technical difficulty they might be running into that they haven't added it by now already. I'm just getting into using vintage film lenses on the OM10 Mark II. You bought 3 Pentaxes for 25 pounds. Wow. Yeah, Pentax is awesome. It's awesome. It's really a shame that they're not thriving more than they are, you know. It's just the way the market is now. So recommended lenses for the OM. Well, the stay away from any. I can tell you what not to get. Stay away from any zoom lenses that are vintage. They generally suck. There might be one or two cherry zoom lenses out there that will work great, but then they're going to be expensive. So just avoid them. But a lot of people like that Jupiter, the Jupiter 90 for bokeh, and then. But me personally, I really like using the Olympus Zuiko original lenses for their film cameras. The 50 millimeter, the 24 millimeter, the 35, the 135. All of the Zuiko lenses work great on our cameras. So, and they're cheap. So get any of those. Like you can get them between $30 and $50, and they're great lenses. I use a lot of Nikon vintage glass. And they work great too. The 135 f3.5 Nikon is good. The 200 millimeter f4 is really good. And if you need something wider, let me think. A good wide vintage lens. That's a tough call. I think the Zuiko 24 millimeter f2.8. I've used that. That's been very good to me. Hey Yannis, hey, welcome back. Good to see you again. Hi Dennis. What wireless microphone is best for OMD 10 Mark II? There's not really a choice there. What I do, because the EM10 Mark II doesn't have a mic jack, so I wouldn't use a wireless solution. The best thing to do is this Olympus VP10, and you can get this. You can get this on the Olympus website refurbished, or you can go to Amazon. It's about $40. But this is a really good little microphone, and you have to record separately. But I like to, and this is strictly for vlogging, but I like to just pin it here. So if you look at my videos and you see that, you'll see this pinned to my shirt a lot of times. And that's the audio from this. If you set it to its highest quality setting, it gives really, really good audio. And that's the best way to do it. It's very convenient because you can flip the audio on and off right here as you're vlogging. So you have to develop a workflow in the field where what I do is I start the camera first, pointing it at myself, showing that I'm turning the mic on. And then when I'm done, I point the camera at me, turn the mic off, and then I stop the recording on the camera so that the audio will always be inside of the video when you're doing post-processing. It makes it a lot easier. So that's what I do. Oh wow, a lot of questions scrolled up very quickly here. Hi Denmark, hi Netherlands. Wow, you guys are all over the place. What's a good lens for real estate shooting? Yeah, the 7-14 is probably the best lens to get, the Olympus one. I got they're asking what's a good lens for real estate. I personally got the 8mm fisheye because it's even wider than 7mm, but you have to do corrections and post and things. So if you're very skilled with doing correction, processing in Lightroom and Photoshop, I think the 8mm is a better choice. But if you're really just starting out, you want to get the 7-14mm Pro lens. If that's a little bit too expensive to start, and I get that because that's like a $1,200 or $1,300 lens, two good alternatives is my number 2 choice would be the Olympus the 18mm lens. It's not quite as wide, but it's good enough to get started. Or the Panasonic 7-14mm. The only challenge with the Panasonic is it does have flaring issues that you have to be very conscious of when you're working. So if you're taking a picture, you got to look for flare, because if it's there, it's really hard to get out of, to brush those out later in post-processing. So, but I used the 7-14mm Panasonic for almost 3 years of my real estate work, and I had to work around the flare. Not a lot, but I'd say 10 to 20% of my shots, I had to be very conscious of that flare. either move the camera and get the shot that way, or I had to brush it out in post. So I made sure that the flare was in an area of the picture that it won't matter. So like one of the blank walls, where I could brush it out of a wall very easily. But yeah, so the 9-18, then the 7-14 from Panasonic. But if you can afford it, then the 7-14 from Olympus is your best bet. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Eddie. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the videos and the help. You crushed my dreams when you confirmed that the manual video hack auto ISO. Yeah, I still don't think there's a way around that video hack. I don't think that works. It's a little deceiving when you watch when you're using the camera. You think you're in auto ISO, but you're not. And if someone else knows a way to do it, let me know. But I haven't figured it out. Yeah, Jack knows. The 7-14 Pro is awesome for interiors, not just for real estate, but any kind of interior, architectural, exterior landscapes. It's a great all-in-one lens for those kinds of things. It's not cheap. I didn't buy it. I bought the 8mm fisheye Pro, but that's because I'm really good now with doing post correction. Oh, you're welcome, Mary. I didn't know. I guess you're referring to something from way before because I haven't talked to you yet today, but you're welcome. No, Olympus hasn't gotten back to me about being an ambassador. Like I said, Olympus, they want people that take good pictures, right? Or somebody that's like was a professional on a full frame and switched to Micro Four Thirds. They assign ambassadors mainly for marketing purposes. It has nothing to do with whether you really deserve it or not. I don't think I deserve it so much as any of the other visionaries out there. They're awesome, much better photographers than I am. Because like I said, if you see my portfolio, like my Flickr, my Instagram, they're pretty normal pictures. I mean, I can take a picture, but they're not, epic by any means. I just get my lines straight and I'm happy. How do I mix sound and audio later? I think you mean mix video and audio together, right? You have to use DaVinci. Well, I use DaVinci Resolve. Some people use Adobe Premiere, but there's tools in there to help you align or sync those things back together. So if you search for syncing audio with video on YouTube, there's a lot of tutorials. So just find the one for the software that you have. If you don't have a software, DaVinci Resolve is free. They have a paid version, but the free version does 99% of what the paid version does. So that's what I use. And there's a lot of tutorials on how to sync audio and video. So you had a problem with the smartphone connection, the OM Mark II. I installed Olympus image palette, but unfortunately I cannot get on with it. Ashard, I cannot help you with the apps. I have the same problems as you. They don't connect too well sometimes. I've had better luck lately with it connecting, but I'm app challenged just like a lot of people. It may not be Olympus's fault. It may be user error. But I don't like the apps in general because they're very limited. You don't have a lot of control over the camera, or as much as I would want. And then doing all the other things with the apps is kind of a pain. I may do a tutorial on it one time, just to show you some basics of how I can get around in it. But for the most part, I'm sorry, I can't help you with the apps too much. Do I have a video about teaching manual focusing with vintage lens? I do have a video. Search for adapting lenses to your camera in my channel. Just do a search there and you'll find it. I have 2 or 3 videos on it, and it deals with focus peaking and setting the focal length for the image stabilization. Those are the two most important things when you're using vintage lenses, is setting the focal length for your IBIS, and then also the focus peaking and how to use that. So search for that. No, I don't have any experience. Someone's asked, Yannis asked me about the LSP4 recorder. Not sure. Yeah, I don't like the mics that are really long like that. I mean, I think it's convenient for syncing. It has some sort of syncing ability, but it's kind of big and heavy, and it's long like this HN1, which I never use. And my problem with it is when you put it on the camera, you know, you can't use the camera viewfinder or anything, right? You're gonna have to use the live view all the time. So I've totally switched away from this to just using a pen mic like this and recording separately. Or recently I got this Sarmonic, this little small Sarmonic thing. I forget what it's called, a Blink 500 or something. This has been working. I've only used it in one video since I got this, but it worked really well. That's what I would do, or that's what I do, is use a lav mic. But if lav mic's not an option, then the LSP might be a way to go, because I think it does have that ability to sync the audio to the video. No, I haven't used the Helios. A lot of people love that lens, but I haven't used the Helios 44-2. It's on my short list, but it's a focal length that I have, like, you know, 5 lenses in that focal length. So I have a hard time buying another one. Oh, thanks, Andre. Andre from Australia. My 500px. Oh, I forgot I had a 500px. Yeah, a lot of the pictures there are on my Flickr too. I haven't updated either one of those in years. The Flickr one has more pictures with my Olympus cameras, and I think the 500px, that was more of my Nikon stuff when I was shooting Nikon more than 3 years ago. That's when I was really into landscapes and nature type photography. So those always, you know, get lots of likes and things, you know. I'm more into kind of street stuff lately because I don't like to drive out anymore. Traffic has just gotten ridiculous. Yeah, hopefully the EM1 Mark III, Liquid saying Olympus needs to focus on video. I think they're doing a good job now, but if the EM1 Mark III comes out, they're going to have to bring the specs up to match the competition. Not that anybody really needs 422 10-bit output, but if they can improve on the autofocus and auto exposure and the key things that make a video look good, other than 422 10-bit output, I think that would be a good move on their part. But right now, I'm very content with the video now. Right now, I'm using the M1 Mark II with a 25mm lens, the Zuiko, in continuous autofocus with face detect. And I got a bad habit of rocking back and forth, but you can see it keeps up pretty well. So the autofocus and exposure has been really good. I look a little overexposed actually, but anyway, that's because of the stupid green background, and the white balance is good though. You want to use it as a remote control. Oh, interesting. The LSP4. Like I said, I just don't have that gear, so I can't really give you any advice on that. I'm sorry. Check out D Griff Gallery. He's pretty good. 1 Olympus and 1 lens. Oh, okay. Let me make a note. D Griff. I'll check it out. On 500px. Okay. How can I change exposure any mode on the M5 Mark II and see the real-time exposure change on the LCD? You should be able to do that. Um, there shouldn't be any issue doing that, changing the exposure and then seeing it live. Now the problem with live view though is when you're in low light or extremely bright situations, but generally in low light conditions like indoors, your live view is not going to really show you the true exposure of the image. So you actually have to record a little bit or take a picture and see what it looks like, unfortunately. And that has to do with the limitations of the sensor read speed in low light. Because you might really need a shutter speed of 1/10 of a second to capture the exposure properly, but the read speed I think in low light is 1/30th of a second. So the camera is not going to show you the true exposure of the image that it should be at 1/10 of a second. I mean, it's a little technical, and I don't know the exact numbers of the read speed of the sensor. You know, I don't know all the technical details of the sensor itself, but what's the word I'm looking for? But conceptually, right, I understand why the live view does not represent the actual true exposure of the image, particularly in low light. There's a lot of factors there. Now, some cameras, they're better at digitally recreating what the exposure should be. But every camera that uses live view does struggle in low light in showing you the actual exposure you'll be getting. Just Olympus doesn't do it as well as some other companies. Yeah, but that answers. Hopefully, that answers the question about seeing it in the LCD. If you're asking about just how to change the exposure, you know, I think you're talking about exposure comp, and I have some tutorials on that on exposure compensation. So if you search my channel for that, you'll find that. So yeah, watch that video actually on exposure compensation. I think it's part 2 of the beginner series, but I walk you through how to change exposure using exposure comp. And then you'll also see the live view and how that's affected. Another video you want to watch about live view is the, what's it called? Live, I can't remember now. I'm drawing a blank. It's live something. God, let me just go into them. I know where it is in the menu. I just can't remember it. It's called display live view boost. Sorry. Look at the video about live view boost. That'll give you a very good examples of when live view's not great. It doesn't represent the true exposure of the image because there's different live view boost modes that affect what the exposure looks like in the live view versus what you get in reality. Okay, my clips. Going to do my clips video for a local craft show this weekend. Thanks. Oh, okay. Yeah, that live clips is pretty cool. I haven't used it really since I made that video, but every time I go out, I'm thinking I want to try and do a live clips. You know, it's pretty cool little feature. Oh yeah, I saw that. I watched his video when he met Joe Edelman. The angry photographer met with Joe Edelman up at Photo Plus, and he might get an Olympus camera. That'll be interesting to see his input on that, because he's always, you know, poo-pooing on our Micro Four Thirds camera. Let's see. ND filters like Craig Roberts. I can't remember what he uses. If he uses the slide-in type or if he uses the screw-on type. I personally, I'm not a big ND filter user, and not because I have a problem with them. It's just I don't do a lot of long exposure photography or need ND filters too much. But I use screw-on ND filters, and the two that I can recommend are the K&F. I used to have links. If you look at, I don't actually have a video specifically about ND filters, but K&F makes 2 ND filters, a variable ND filter, which is about 4 or 5 stops of light reduction, and then they make a 10-stop ND filter. Don't buy the cheapest variable ND filter from them. Buy kind of the mid-grade one. I think it's about $40 or $50. That's a very good filter. It doesn't have that X pattern, and it reproduces the colors well, even at the lowest stop. And then the 10 stop ND filter is excellent as well. And I think they only make one kind of that. You just buy the right ring size. The drop-in filters I don't have any experience with. "4K 60, yeah, we're gonna have to wait for a new processor to get 4K 60 in video. The TruePic 8 just cannot do 4K 60. It's not going to be a simple firmware update. They could probably firmware update auto ISO and manual though. That seemed like something they could do. That would be nice. When I get the Mark III, oh yeah, I'll do some samples. I'll go through the camera quite a bit. I think it's gonna be my go-to camera, so I'll just use it and make a video. Oh yeah, if the video quality on 1080p at 120 frames is poor, yeah, you'll see it. But I don't know. When I get the camera, I'll let you know. The M5 Mark III. I often wish one of the camera manufacturers would develop a camera for photographers that aren't interested in video shooting, purely stills camera. It may then also be... I doubt it, Mary. You know why? Because Nikon did that with the Nikon DF, right? They made a camera without video, and everybody pooped on it because it didn't have video. So it's not going to happen. Yeah, we'll just have to wish for it, but I seriously doubt it. The one in the Mark II used to have manual focus as a button assignment. Latest firmware remove. Oh, really? I didn't notice that. I use several unclutched lenses, then a quick switch to manual focus by button helps. No, I don't know why it was removed. I didn't notice that because I don't manual focus much. But let me make a note. I want to check that for myself. The manual focus button. So the manual focus as a button assignment. So manual focus as button assignment. Interesting. Okay, that's... Okay, it looks like when you add the much structure and sharpness isn't crisp and fine. I assume you're talking about Olympus Workspace. Yeah, try to work with, when you're working with Olympus Workspace, do everything in very small steps. And always try to use the highest level of, well, I guess that's hard to explain, but dehaze and structure I would use last on any image. I would do sharpening and contrast before I use those two. Go to those two as a last resort. Yeah, Nick Carver is awesome. I started watching him a couple months back. And yeah, the laundromat. Yeah, the laundromat was awesome. Yeah, Gray Van Zine is saying about the same thing about the Nikon DF. Yeah, that bombed. My black and white settings. Okay, that's an easy one. What I do is I do very similar to the Pen F monochrome profile 2. Is I'll do a +6 on the highlights, a -6 on the shadows, and then I'll do a +2 on contrast and a -2 on the sharpening. If I'm going to be at high ISOs. If I'm not going to be at high ISOs like I do in night photography, if it's the daytime, I'll also do a +2 on sharpening. And that makes the images really pop for me. Sometimes I do the low-key gradation as well. So play with that normal gradation and low-key gradation. +2 contrast, +2 sharpening, +6 highlights, -6 shadows. That gives a very high contrast image. If you don't like the high contrast image, then do the opposite of all of those things. and you'll get a very flat black and white image. So it depends what kind of black and white photography you like, but I like a very high contrast, very dark, moody image. And I don't mind shooting at high ISO because grain looks great on our Olympus cameras. Let's see. Is depth of field preview, and live boost the same? No. Live boost is about seeing images in the dark. So when you use live boost, it will discard what it thinks the right exposure should look like and try to brighten up the image. So again, I have a video on live boost, but it basically, live boost 1 brightens it up a little bit. Live boost 2 brightens it up a lot, but it slows the sensor read speed down to like 1/10 or 1/5 of a second, something ridiculously slow. So everything it has to be a very static image. You don't want to take pictures of moving subjects using a live boost 2. You'll never see it. You'll never see it happen. And again, my video on live boost modes really demonstrates that really well, I think. Oh, thanks, Christian. Yeah, those settings work good for me. I like how the images come out when I do that. What's your thought on the Laowa 17? I think that's a manual focus lens. I would avoid it because 17 millimeters typically street photography or travel, and you don't want to be manually focusing and miss the shot. If you're doing landscapes, 17 is not wide enough because landscapes autofocus is not a big deal. You can manually focus those. You got time, but not in a 17 millimeter. I would not get a manual focus lens because that's primarily travel, street type things, and you want to be fast. The Panasonic 7-14, is it a good expensive wide angle lens? Yeah, like I said, I used the 7-14 for about 3 years. I still have it. It's in my bag, but the only challenge with that is it has lens flare whenever there's a point of light coming in, whether it's the sun or it's a street light, a lamp, whatever. You get some pretty harsh flaring time to time. So you have to be very conscious of that when you take your pictures. I mean, I haven't, and it's not pretty flaring. It's like this harsh purple, coming across the image. So I would, it's great. It's not, I wouldn't say it's cheap though. It's still $600-700, I think I would steer you towards the Olympus 9-18 millimeter over that lens because of the purple flaring. Oh, hi Terry, welcome. Let's see. What are your thoughts on using the Panasonic 12-35? I think it's fine if you're doing photography. I haven't tried it for video, but I know for photography that 12-35 is awesome. And it's a little smaller, and you might be a little cheaper than the Olympus version 12-40. If you're going to be doing any kind of video work though, get the Olympus Pro version. Don't bother with the Panasonic. But for photography, the 12-35, I really like that it's a little more compact, and for photography, it's great. Tack sharp. Anybody that's ever had that lens has had no problems at all. I've never seen or read anything. Okay, hopefully I answered everyone's questions. If I didn't answer a question that you've already asked, just ask me again. I'll try again. Yeah, Olympus, Sony's getting good reviews. Yeah, they get good reviews. I think they're fine cameras. They're just not for me. They're too. They feel like a piece of gear. They don't feel like a camera to me, so they don't inspire me to go out and take pictures. But technically speaking, I don't think there's any flaws there. But what I love about Olympus, besides the look and feel and the inspiration I get from using them, but also you can really get very creative with them because you have the highlight shadows built in, you have all of the art filters, you have different combinations you can do. There's so much customization in the camera for you to be creative with your photography that I've not found in any other camera to that extent. There's always some, right? But even the Fujifilm, and I need to talk about that because I know Solar, you're probably still waiting, right, for me to talk about the X100F. um, yeah, even the Fujifilm is not as creative, I think, as our Olympus cameras. Which Panasonic lenses do I only have a 25 millimeter Panasonic. I got two of them actually. It's long story short, I got two of them. The only other lens that I think I want from Panasonic is the 35 to 100. That lens, by all accounts, is excellent, and that's a lens I would like to have one day. It's $1,000, but one day I'm going to get that lens. I would get that over the Olympus 40 to 150. Even though you lose that little bit of reach, I think it's more in the spirit of Micro Four Thirds being smaller and lighter. It's close enough, to 150. But yeah, other than that, I can't think of any Panasonic lenses. Well, I take that back. The Panasonic 14 millimeter f2.5 actually drove out, and I have to talk about that too, to go get one. And then halfway there, I talked myself out of it. But the 14 millimeter f2.5, I might go get that tomorrow. But that's another lens because it's I need a pancake lens, and I just don't have one now. So that's it for Panasonic's. Is the 14 millimeter 2.5. The 20 millimeter I hear is very good, but it doesn't suit me, that focal length. And then the 35 to 100 is excellent. What are my thoughts on the 12 to 40f? It's an awesome lens. I think it's a little bulky on the EM10, but it's great on the EM1 Mark II. It's a fantastic lens. Tack sharp, very versatile, very fast. Oh, thank you, Abdul. I appreciate that. I see some Ollie cams that come with the standard lens and others come with similar lens but designed as easy. Yeah, in optical quality terms, the difference between the kit lenses is nil. I can't see any difference. It's just a matter of, do you want a zoom lens with a pancake, or do you want to manually zoom? I think for photography, manually zooming is better. And the power zoom, is just better because it's a pancake. It's just more compact to carry around. But I don't like power zooms in photography. I prefer the manual zoom. So that's why I had a pancake zoom that broke, but I replaced it with a manual zoom because I do photography, and I prefer manual zoom. But optically, there's no difference. Oh, thanks, Alan. The Panasonic 15. Oh yeah, the Panasonic 15 1.7. I looked at the 15 millimeter Panasonic and the 17 millimeter Olympus, and I wanted the 15 more than the 17. But when I put it on and tested the video autofocusing on my EM10 and my PL8, the 15 millimeter just couldn't handle it. It was too slow. There's some compatibility issue in video where it's just dead slow, and it wasn't usable to me. So I had to go with the 17 millimeter f1.8 from Olympus. The video on that is excellent. If I was a photographer only, stills only, yeah, I would get the 15 millimeter from Panasonic all day long. Notice the Panasonic 7 to 14 does have a nasty glare, but not on Why is that? It's a function of the software from Panasonic. And that's why I always recommend, if you're going to buy a lens that's made by the same manufacturer, because they have their own secret sauce that they put in so that it focuses better. It gets rid of a lot of the lens defects like chromatic aberration, vignetting, and flaring. A lot of that is corrected in the camera software when you're using Olympus on Olympus or Panasonic on Panasonic. So that's how it's being done. generally speaking. So it's more of a function of the software than it is, I think, any physical manifestations of the cameras. Let's see. I have a 14 millimeter f2.5. Like it a lot. Often pair it with the Ollie 45. Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm thinking, right? That pancake lens, man. That'll make the camera so compact. Uh, yeah, the 12 to 50, but that's like carrying a beer can around. That thing is, I don't know. It's just not for me. That lens. I think that's why it's like a $500 lens, but it sells for like 150 bucks all day long because of the size is a little bit awkward for what it is. Yeah, the 12 to 40 Pro is tack sharp. The images really pop. Yeah, Jan is just confirming what I said about the 12 to 40. It's an awesome lens. It's just whether you want to deal with it. It's a little bit bulky on the smaller bodies. On the M1 Mark II, it's awesome. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, Al. The cameras can't fix flaring, but for some reason, people are saying that when they put them on their Panasonic cameras, there's a lot less flaring with that lens. So I'm just going off of more observational things of what I've seen and read than I am actual experience because I don't have a Panasonic camera. So let me qualify that statement that I said earlier that it's based on what I've read generally about that lens on Panasonic cameras, over the years that I've owned it versus actually firsthand experience. The Sigma DC f1. The only Sigma lens that I was tempted was the 58 millimeter f1.4 that they put out. That's very tempting lens. I don't remember though if it was manual focus or not, but uh, yeah, I was a little tempted by that lens, but it's a little bit long at 58 millimeters for me. But still, next time I got 500 bucks all at once that I don't have to put on my credit card, then I might get that lens. There's certain lenses. There's so many lenses out there that I want, but I'm only gonna buy when I actually have the cash. And there's other lenses that I will buy with my credit card at any cost. But the like the Sigmas and the off-brand lenses, even the Panasonics, I'll only buy those if really I have the cash. Versus um, that 300 millimeter f4 Pro, I'm tempted to go buy that, and I'd have to put it on my credit card. But anyway, the 7300, but have only been out twice. Yeah, Jen, what camera do you have? Do you have the? Well, it doesn't matter. It's a slow lens, and you have to be shooting at f8 to get it sharp, right? And don't shoot at 300 millimeters. It's going to get a little soft. Stay around 250 millimeters or lower and stay at f8 on the 75 to 300. Uh, then it's fine in good light. But I'd say I forget what I was going to say. But yeah, over 200 millimeters. Yeah, so you said that already. It's a little soft over 250, definitely. So stay at f8 or f9, but you have to be in good light. But it's a great lens otherwise. If you look at my video on birds in flight, I think I'm using that lens, and you can see what I did with it. Oh, some vintage lenses. The Konica. Yeah, Konica, man, they made some good lenses. All their primes are excellent. I had a 135 Konica for a little while that I bought for like $25. Uh, and then I sold it because I have too many 135 millimeter vintages. And it was super big and heavy, compared to my other 135s. So I decided I didn't want it anymore. You were shooting surface and guessed that it was also user error. Yeah, You have to get a feel for the lens, definitely, but my keeper rate is less than 50% on birds in flight with that lens on an EM10 Mark II. I'm going to have to shoot with it on the EM1 Mark II because that thing came alive when I put it on that camera. The EM1 Mark II autofocusing system just brings the lenses to life for some reason when you're using continual autofocus. It's so fast. Okay, sorry, Marriott. We'll see you later. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, vintage lenses aren't perfect, right? Uh, for some, they are just vintage and not interesting at all. For others, vintage lenses are awesome and they love them. It's really a personal preference, right? I found some vintage lenses to be very, very sharp and others to be a little bit soft but have some character. It's a crapshoot for me. I'm not a there. I think Mattias Burling or there's a channel out there that does nothing but vintage lenses, and he does a good job and has a lot of good recommendations. Yeah, the 40 to 150 is awesome, right? Yeah, that's an awesome lens. Composition skills. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, for composition, I'll have to actually do that as a photo walk. And if you watch my photo walks, usually I think out loud what I'm doing to compose the picture. Uh, but I do have because I have in theory, and I wrote down on well, it's on my notepad downstairs. I keep a little notepad with me that has a list of all the composition techniques, right? Rule of thirds, rule of odds, uh, texture, pattern, triangles, diagonals. I have all these written down in a little booklet that I carry with me sometimes when I go out shooting. So I have it all in theory, but in practice, it's really hard sometimes, right? So rather than cherry pick a few images to demonstrate composition techniques, because I see a lot of videos like that where the photographer will cherry pick images from his collection, then display what composition rules he applied to get that image, and that's easy to do when you do it that way. And I guess it's a good way to teach, but that's been done to death. So I don't want to do a video like that. I would rather do a video where I actually go out and say, okay, I'm here. What can I do? What composition rule can I use? And then as you're watching, you can think yourself, what composition would you use? Because it might be very different than what I chose. And that to me would be a better way for me to teach it than to do like I've seen done a million times. And those are great ways to teach rules of composition, but it's just not a way I would teach it. Is the 40 to 150? I think it is personally. It's not as versatile, obviously. If I had to pick one lens, I'd probably get the 14 to 150. If I could only have one lens on my camera, that would be it. I would get the 14 to 150. But since I have a kit lens, 14 to 42, I would get the 40 to 150 over the 14 to 150. Do I ever use overlay guidelines in Photoshop or Lightroom? I used to use them a lot. The little guidelines in Photoshop, they have like the weird circle thing. God, what is that called? The Fibonacci circle. I use that one a lot when I used to use Lightroom for my personal stuff. I rarely use Lightroom anymore for my photo walks and personal shots. Usually I just try to compose it, rule of thirds in the camera, and or do diagonals, or triangles, or I look for patterns and textures, so that I'm at a place now. I'm not saying my images are any good, but I'm at a place now that when I take a picture, I get exactly what I wanted, and that's a very happy place for me. Like I said, I didn't say my images are good, but if I take a picture and I look at it, when I bring it back home, I'm pretty happy with what I got in terms of composition and lighting. and subject matter. I'm very, very content with what I captured. So I don't use Lightroom anymore to help me recompose the shots. Hannah, I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say smart, but thanks. Probably someone other commenter, not me, right? Xenography YouTube channel gives some good advice on quality vintage lenses. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not a vintage lens expert. I like the Zuiko vintage lenses and I like the Nikons. Oh, good, Alan. Good. Yeah, that 40 to 150 is awesome lens. It's awesome. I mean, it's not fast, and you got to put up with a little high ISO stuff, but thanks. Okay, if there's any other questions, just let me know. What's good composition? Yeah. Composition is the most important thing. Well, no, it's the second. Lighting is number one. You got to have good light, right? And then you compose how that light shows on the image. I print them in 4x6. Serge has asked me, do I print my photos? I print them in 4x6, and I have a couple of them that I've printed a little bit larger. But yeah, none of my photos are really, you know, wall hanging art worthy. even if I like them, they're not so good that I want to spend money and put them on my wall. But I have a couple images I like, and I print them in 4x6. I'm really proud of this. Everything's in the other room. I was trying to clean up my space a little bit so I could live stream in with a clear room, but now when I want to show you guys something, it's all in the other room. But yeah, I print. I do print a lot of 4x6. I can't show you this. See, I bought a boatload of 4x6 because I got a good deal on them. And yeah, so I do print, just not. I just don't print very large. Have you heard anything new with the M10 Mark IV? No, nothing new. Man, an ep.10, wow. You could buy almost any camera off the shelf and get an upgrade right now. Not that the ep.10 was a bad camera, but yeah, that's it's been a while, huh? No, I don't have any news on the Mark IV though. Yeah, the Pen F. Yeah, the Pen F should have been their Halo camera, right? You know, like Mazda has their Miata. I hate to use car analogies because everybody does, but you know, there wouldn't be Mazda if there was no Miata. If they ever stop making the Miata, Mazda's dead to me. And now Olympus, they stopped making the Pen F, and a little piece of me died with it. You know that. That's an awesome little camera. That could have been their Halo camera, like the one that everybody wants to buy but don't. They end up buying something else, like I did. Like I want a Miata, but I ended up buying a Mazda 6 instead. The Pen F should have been that camera, like charge, like give it everything that it needs and charge what you need to charge, like $2,000 or something. But they should have had one camera, right? That. Anyway, oh, good, Mark. Hope you got some good shots. Welcome. Yeah, I was going, you know, Sam, like I said, I set this up about an hour before I started the live stream, and then I was going to go in the software and figure out how to actually use the green screen. Then my sister called and we got to talking for an hour. And I'm serious, like 10 minutes before the live stream was supposed to start, I hung up with her. And then I had to go comb my hair and stuff, you know. So maybe by Sunday morning, I'm going to do another live stream. I'll have this working. I don't know what I'm going to put back there, you know. I mean, what's wrong with green? That's fine, right? uh, the 75, you know, the 75 millimeter, tack sharp, fast f1.8. But for recitals and theater dance, I don't think it's long enough at 75 millimeters, unless you're in the front row. If you're within the first, front, second, third row, the 75 is awesome. Awesome lens. But if you're further back, it's not long enough. I'd rather use a 75 to 300 and deal with a little bit of noise than have to crop an image, you know, down to this. I'm not sure what the question is between the EM5 Mark III and the EM1 Mark II comparison. Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure what your question is, Fozil, on that. They're two great cameras. One has a grip, one doesn't. I don't. Yeah, sorry. Comparing image quality, which one? They're the same. They're the same. I think you'd need a lab to be able to tell a difference if there is any in terms of image quality and dynamic range. I think to the naked eye, to anybody that would ever use it, they wouldn't be able to show you the difference. Even a pro photographer wouldn't be able to show you the difference. You'd need a lab to be able to tell if there is any difference. And then it would be very small. The main drawback with the 5 Mark II is that it kind of sucks at, yeah, it does suck. It's no better, you know, all of the Olympus cameras continuous autofocus, it's not great. I have to, what I do for continuous autofocus is I slow the burst rate down to, so let's say the maximum speed is 8 frames per second in continuous low. I would change it to like maybe 5, you know, slow it down so the lens can keep up in the autofocus system. Then I get a little better keeper rate. Thanks, Eddie. Wow, you've seen them all. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, once you got the basic things set up, just start to experiment a little bit, you know, expand on that. Back button, yeah, I have some videos on back button focus. I think it's really handy for birds in flight and sports action stuff, but for general photography, my muscle memory is half press and shoot, you know, half press, recompose, shoot, that kind of thing. But yeah, I guess I could retrain my thumb to be the back button focus, but then the problem is I have so many different cameras, you know, I wouldn't be able to back button focus consistently with every camera because the button's always in a different place. So it's a little bit of a challenge for me in that respect too. The 180 Zeiss. I don't know. I don't have that lens, the 180 Zeiss sonar. Is that the old, the vintage one that's really long and silver? I've heard good things about it, but I don't have that lens. Oh, I'm sorry, Serge. You were asking about back button focus. Yeah, so I answered that. It's hard for me because I have so many different cameras. I'll never develop the muscle memory for it. It's mostly, but it's great for birds in flight. I do try to program a button for that if I'm going to do birds in flight or sports action. Oh, hi, Morgan. Just got your EM1 Mark II. Have you noticed when you set EVF frame rate to high, the F blackout appears to be darker than the scene? I have not noticed that. I never set the frame rate to high. I just because I don't do sports action, so I have no need for it. So sorry, I haven't noticed that. I check it now, but I'm using the camera to do the live stream. But a good place to go, Morgan, is the 43, I'm sorry, MU43 forums. There's a lot of excellent photographers there, much more experienced than me, that can answer that question directly, because they'll have an EM1 Mark II and they'll do sports action all day long. There's a lot of professional photographers in that forum. Okay, bye, Jennifer. Yeah, November 21st, right? I think you said you had ordered the EM5 Mark III as well. Okay. I don't know, Solar Body, are you still here by any chance? The reason I'm asking is you wanted to know my thoughts on the Fujifilm X100F. Is anybody else interested in that besides her, or? Because if not, I'll just skip it. But I've been shooting with the X100F for the past few days since I got it. And it's a very different experience from Olympus. What are my thoughts on the 1.8 in terms of sharpness? I got a question about the 17mm f1.8. I mean, it's very sharp, even wide open. But it really gets tack sharp when you get to f2.8 or f4. Then it's extremely as sharp as any lens I have. At 1.8, it's still very, very sharp. I did a video comparing, I think, the 17mm against the kit lens at 17mm. And I think wide open at 1.8, the kit lens matched it. But the kit lens is great too, that's the thing, right? So check my video on the 17mm lens, and you can actually see some real life examples that I did with it. But long story short, it's very sharp at 1.8, but it tack extremely sharp at f4. Okay, Jock Lou wants to also know about the X100F. Vladis. Okay, a lot of people want to know. All right. All right, okay. Give me a second. I will talk about the X100F. It's in my bag in the kitchen. Okay, just some quick thoughts. I noticed that it shoots at about 2/3 of a stop darker. As a rule of thumb, I found that the case. Some shots came out exact, because I shot it side by side with my Olympus Pen PL8. And let me just bring that. Let me bring that up. All right. Anyhow, yeah, so that's it. Okay. So that's it on the exposure. Other than that, the exposure seems pretty good most of the time, but it's a little darker. The color profiles are interesting. All the film simulations, the pro neg high, low. I mean, they're very, very subtle differences between them three. And then they're very different than the colors I'm getting out of the Olympus camera. I can match them to some extent in post-processing, but I noticed that the okay, because you have red, green, and blue, right? I noticed the reds are generally stronger. If you look at those three colors, red, green, and blue, the reds are generally stronger in the files, but only on certain tones. So they are definitely messing with the highlights and I'm sorry, and they're more contrasty. Okay, so they're a little darker, they're more contrasty, but they also are messing with the tone curves of the individual colors, red, blue, and green, so that the skin tones are more pleasing, in my opinion, than the Olympus gave me. The Olympus was more accurate, no question, but the Fujifilm skin tones I noticed were more pleasing. That picture I was just showing, working on, was a good example of that, where I felt, and it's all personal preference, right? But the skin tones were definitely more pleasing to my eye using any of the film simulations that Fuji has. And it's because they're messing with the curves of the individual colors. Because I was not able to reproduce that skin tone by simply adjusting white balance or tweaking the white balance, amber, green, red, purple, magenta, because there's very fine controls that you can do with white balance, and it's not a saturation thing where you can simply increase the saturation of a particular color like you can do on the Pen F. There's a lot more going on there with the Fujifilm color science than simple contrast saturation. They're messing with the curves of the individual colors at different highlights. So let me bring it up again now that I know what I'm going to So what I'm trying to do is emulate the Fujifilm colors, but to do that I have to understand what the camera's doing and why do the images look the way they do. Oh, sorry. Oh my God, you lost audio when I'm looking at that screen. And when I'm looking at that screen, it hides the... But what I was trying to say was that the Fuji colors are definitely a little bit redder. And I have to play with the individual curves of the channels, blue, red, green, blue, whatever, to make it work. So hopefully you saw a little bit of that when I was on that on Olympus workspace. But that's what I was trying to say was they're doing more than just white balance shifts and color saturation. There's more to the channels. So that was interesting to me, how it's able to get better skin tones, in my opinion. In terms of functionality, like actually using the camera, I can't speak to the custom settings yet because I haven't quite figured out how those work. But what I cannot figure out is how to quickly switch between different color profiles. So if I want to go from Velvia to Acros very quickly, I don't know how to do that with a function button. Okay, I know how you can do it in 2 clicks. You hit the function button, then you use the D-pad or the thumb thing, but it's 2 steps, whereas on the Olympus I can do it in 1 click, right? I can click function 1 or function 2. I'm switching between profiles instantly. But Fuji, I have to do it in 2. And there's the lack of bracketing is an issue too. I can bracket shots, like I can bracket up to 3 color profiles at once, but I cannot bracket, all of the art filters and all of the color profiles all at once like I can with the Olympus camera. And then if I am bracketing in the different profiles, I can't save a RAW file. It shoots JPEG only. So there's a lot of things that are awkward for me on the Fujifilm in terms of using it versus what I do with my Olympus all the time. I bracket art filters, I bracket color profiles, and I keep the RAW files. That's not something I can do with the Fuji as far as I can tell. Yeah, I have to underexpose by 2/3 of a stop all the time to get the exposure to match the Fujifilm. So Fujifilm is definitely darker. They definitely have more contrast. The Acros is, I think, yeah, the highlight shadow is around +5 or 6 on the highlights and -5 or 6 on the shadows. Then it matches up pretty quickly. So I think I can get the X100F Acros down, no problem. I'll create a profile or a preset for workspace, so you can do it with any Olympus camera, and then I'll create the settings that you can use in camera to get the Acros look. That one's not too difficult, but the color ones are going to take some time. That one is not going to be something you're going to be able to do in camera. You're going to have to use a preset if I can get it, if I can make it happen, or what's the word? If I can figure it out in workspace, I will. Like I said, it's just going to take some tweaking of the individual color channels in the highlights and shadows on each color channel to get it to match. Because that's really where Fuji's doing it. They're not doing simple saturation and contrast. It's beyond that. Because someone pointed me to, and I put a link to that. Like I said, I have a lot of links down in my description today to the different channels I'm recommending, like Ted Vieira. I'm also recommending another channel called Advancing Your Photography. But on that channel, there's a character there called Daniel Miner. He was a documentary type photographer, but he has really very good insight, I think, on telling a story in your images. I think he does a very good job. He has a lot of videos on that channel for featuring him on that channel that you should check out. And let's see. Oh, thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. Yeah, the one, I'm sorry, the Gray Vanzina, the X100F doesn't have a wheel. Oh no, you're talking about the front and rear dials. I don't know. I got, like I said, I don't know the camera well enough to say that it can or can't do things right now. Right now, I'm more concerned about the colors and stuff, and I'll worry about the actual functionality or workflow, as I go, as I go. That's not as critical. Um, so Daniel Miner on advancing your photography. There's a link down below to one of the videos that he's featured in that I like, and yeah, Bug, I'll try that with the rear dial. Like I said, it's still kind of 2 clicks though, right? You click and then you switch. With the Olympus, I can program a specific color profile to a specific button. So I don't have to scroll through, Velvia, Proneg, Acros to get to the one that I want. I can just say, I want to do natural, then I want to do black and white. Or I can do natural and I want to do pop art. I can do it in 1 click. Uh, yeah, Valdez. Yeah, getting Acros won't be a problem. I need to take a few more hundred shots with the X100, if not more, to really get a feel for it, because it's not just color saturation and playing with the individual channels of color. Because let's say I can perfectly match the colors or gradations that you have in any particular film sim on the Fuji. If I can do that on one image, doesn't mean I can do it on another image by applying the same settings, because I also noticed that when the white balance changes, like if we're in a cloudy situation versus a sunny situation, Olympus is doing something different again. I'm sorry, Fuji's is doing something different again to adjust for that change in the white balance or light. So I might have to create 3 different presets depending on the lighting conditions. There might be, okay, if you want Fujifilm chrome look on a cloudy day, use this preset. If you want the Fujifilm chrome look on a sunny day, use this film preset. If you're using it in tungsten lighting indoors, artificial lighting, use this preset. So this is not going to be a quick I'm going to generate these presets in one weekend. This is going to take me some time. And I'll share them with you as I come across them, and then you guys can experiment with them as well and let me know what the feedback that you get. Or I can get feedback from you how it's working. But yeah, I'm going to try. It's going to take me some time, so be patient with me. Yeah, 2 steps, right? Yeah. No. Do you have any experience with the 7 to 14 2.8 compared to the 12 to 42? No, I do not. I have the 12 to 40 Pro, but I don't have the 7 to 14. I have the 8mm fisheye Pro, but I can tell you that the general word that I'm hearing is all of the Pro lenses are excellent. Peter Forsgaard, I think, is probably, all of the visionaries, Peter Forsgaard, Robin Wong, those 2 channels, I think they have those lenses. So they would be a better one to ask if you can catch them on a live stream or comment on one of their videos that has where they're talking about that lens specifically. Another person I never talked about before that has a good channel is Joseph Ellis. He has terrific content as well, and he's done comparisons with the pro lenses versus the non-pro versions. Like I know he did one on the 45 f1.2 versus the 40. He may have ones for those lenses as well. He does a lot more pixel peeping and punches in like I do time to time. So if you're interested in sharpness and things, that he would be a good channel to look at. Let's see. If you have exposure comp set to C, the front dial. Yes. Yeah, I need to figure out how to set the exposure comp to one of the dials. I did not see that in any of the settings, but I heard it can be done, so I'll figure it out. I couldn't find it in the manual or in the menus in the camera, how to do that. I look forward to this. Although your black and white, yeah, the black and whites, I'm really happy with my black and whites. I mean, like I said, they're not great pictures, but they're exactly what I was trying to get. uh, yeah, thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. Um, oh, hi, Ukraine. Sorry, I can't read the Ukrainian letters there, but thanks for joining. What time is it? Gosh, how long has this been going on? Hour and a half. I should probably kill it soon, but I didn't get a chance to talk about everything. And again, if I haven't answered your question yet, just ask me again. I'll try and answer it if I missed it from an earlier thing, because like I said, I'm still working out some kinks in my live streaming. Okay, thanks, Bug. I'll look for that position. C position. Okay. For landscape photography, what would be better, a smaller aperture for lens or focus bracketing at lens ideal aperture? I would do focus bracketing at the ideal aperture. It just depends on the landscape itself. And by that I mean if there's a lot of wind and moving things, don't focus bracket. You're going to get some anomalies there. If but don't. I mean, on our Micro Four Thirds cameras, you can be at f8 and get a great landscape. But if you really want to try to capture everything from something that's only 5 or 6 feet in front of you all the way to almost infinity, you're going to have to do focus bracketing to get a good shot. Or you can, if you're good with Photoshop, you can take about 3 pictures and then blend them at different focus points. So look up some things on videos on hyper distance focusing. I think that's what it's called, hyper distance, hyperfocal length. Focusing for landscapes. Look up some tutorials on that, and that'll help you a lot, I think, pick the right aperture. But if you're trying to get something right in front of the camera all the way out to infinity, focus bracketing is the only way to do it. Let's see. Okay, Bug, I'll check it out. I don't have the camera here, and it's in the kitchen, but yeah, f5.6 to f8. Yeah, I think that's generally good enough. You know, if there's a lot of wind, go at f5.6 so you get less motion blur. No, I never used a Leica. I thought about it once, but man, they're kind of pricey. That kind of money, I'd rather buy the 300 f4 for my Olympus. But maybe one day. Leica is the kind of camera that if I have the cash, I'll buy it. But it's not the kind of camera that I would put on a credit card. I'll put an EM5 Mark III. I put that on my credit card, but I'm not putting. Like I said, I got things that I'll buy with cash, and only when I have the cash. And then there's things that I'll buy with as much credit as I can muster. So Dima Shrudrenko. Oh, nice. Yeah, the Qs are pricey. But everybody swears by Leicas, man. Like they're best thing since sliced bread, I guess. Oh, you're welcome, Dima. Hopefully that translation's right. I'm glad that I can help. It's good because I get that. I hear that time to time where English is not your first language. That they actually learn a little bit of English by watching my videos because I talk so slow. Yeah, if we win the lotto, right? That's a cash-only camera. That is not a camera you put on your credit card. Oh, you sold the M2. Is that a digital camera, the M240? They have so many different cameras. I don't even know what's digital and what's not. I am not an Olympus visionary, no. I am not. Now, uh, when I went to the Olympus launch event, the Olympus guy there did recognize me and said he would be in touch about maybe doing some collaborations. But Olympus Visionary in of itself, like I said, Olympus wants people that takes good pictures, not people like me. Because they, what would be the point of having me be a visionary, right? Um, because they never show my portfolio online. Trust me. Hi Rob, thanks for your great work. What do you think about the Olympus 9? It's awesome. It's an awesome lens. If I didn't already have that focal length covered, I would buy it. Uh, it's really wide and tack sharp. Everybody that's ever reviewed it uh, has said good things about it. I've not heard one bad thing about that lens. I've not used any of the pancakes other than the 14 to 42 kit lens that comes in the pancake, the 14 to 42 easy. But I've not heard good things about their 17 millimeter f2.8, and I'm not familiar that they have any other pancakes. But the 14 to 42 easy lens was fine. The only problem is mine broke, and I don't think it's a common problem, but it is a problem that comes up, and I think it's going to be true for any power zoom lens. But there's a lot of ribbon cables inside that move when that thing powers on and off, and those things eventually wear out. And I think that's what happened to mine, is one of the ribbon cables got disconnected or something inside that it doesn't work anymore. So that's mainly why I replaced it with the non-power zoom. When that lens broke, yeah, it's right here. When this one broke, I replaced it with the non-power zoom, and this is better for photography anyway, in my opinion. But I might buy another pancake again, because I'm kind of missing that compact feel. But I'm debating if I should just get the Panasonic 14 millimeter pancake, or should I get another power easy zoom. I'm leaning towards the prime, the 14 prime though. Too much money invested on the kit. Every time I took it out, I was worried I would lose or break it. Yeah. Yeah, so the M240 is a digital, so it's expensive then. I mean, I see them sell for like thousands of dollars, and I'm just, even the old I'd really like to get their old the M3, I think, the film camera. That's a beautiful camera. But I might go with a Nikon S2 or S3 rangefinder film camera. It's about $800, but I like it. I don't know what you mean, Eddie. I'm not sure what you mean by they're being held up. I feel like Robin, Robin, I don't think holds back anything with respect to his opinions and things. I think Robin's problem, it's not a problem, but Robin's character is he's the happiest man on earth, okay, with a camera. I mean, he will find nothing wrong with anything. You could hand him a piece of crap and he'd say, "Man, this is awesome." Cuz he's just so happy all the time. So Robin, like I said, I don't think he would ever steer you wrong, but just understand that he's so happy about everything that you have to take that into account. That's how he is. Peter, on the other hand, he would not steer you wrong either. He would not tell you something, like he would tell you if something's wrong. No question, without regard to being Olympus visionary or not. He will not steer you wrong or tell you something that's not true. But Peter has a very different set of criteria for what he likes in a camera. If you ever watch his this versus that video, his criteria are totally different than what I would consider. Not totally. I mean, some things are in line, right? Every photographer, we have certain needs and wants out of a camera. But if I did a this versus that battle, it would be very different than his, and I would almost definitely have different winners in every time. Because every time I watch his videos, he has the one he picks as the winner is not the one I would have picked, but I have a different set of criteria, right? So so it's not like his videos are wrong. He has a different set of criteria. So I wouldn't worry about anything that they say. I think they're being honest and true to uh, the photographer community in general. I don't think they're gonna steer you wrong in from their perspective. Um, uh, yeah, like I said, I don't think they're being fake. They just have very different personalities than I do, which is great because people connect with people differently. Yeah, the Leica black and whites, any black and white like those black and white conversions, they take off all the stupid filters on the front that we need for color and infrared and everything. So the black and white, a dedicated black and white camera is going to have really nice images. Oh, Valdez, good. Yeah, the M10 Mark II is really the best camera ever made. I mean, for the money, I think. Right now, it's $499 with the kit lens is amazing, and you can get them used for like like $350. Refurb, brand, practically brand new. Uh, I'm so tempted to buy another one. I just don't need it. I got so many cameras, but I want one because they're so cheap. Yeah, the 20 millimeter is an awesome focal length if I only did photography. The 20 millimeter Panasonic. But because I do vlogging and video, I need to go 14 millimeters. So I think tomorrow I'll go get that lens, the 14 millimeter f2.5 pancake. Um, yeah, the 42 pancake is a good lens. But like I said, I had that one issue with it that's not common, but I think it does happen. Uh, how slow is the focus? I'm not sure what lens you're talking about. The Q2 is $5,000. Yeah. The next time I see 5,000 bucks all at once, I'll go get one. But I see 5,000 bucks, but it's spread out over months and months, you know? Yeah, the screw mounts. Yes, Robin would make a pickle and anchor anchovy sandwich sound good. Yeah, I know, right? Like I said, Robin, that's just the way he is, man. He's just the happiest man, let me rephrase that. He's the happiest photographer on earth. He will take anything and say it's wonderful and be so happy with it. How high would you go on ISO when you want grain-free images? Man, I wouldn't go over 2 or 400 to be honest for grain-free. Uh, if you're talking about Olympus. And honestly, any camera, once you go over the base ISO, you start to see grains. So when you say grain free, that's virtually impossible. Anything over the base ISO. Uh, what am I comfortable with in terms of how much grain will I take before I say that's enough? Depends on the image. If it's street photography, I don't care. I'll go to 25,000 all day long. But uh, in practice, okay, what I'm comfortable with is not actually what happens in the field, right? I will let the camera go to ISO 25,000 if it has to. It doesn't bother me. But in practice, when I looked at my images catalog from 2019, 88% of these images were ISO 1600 and lower. I think 50 or 60% were below ISO at ISO 200 and lower. So half my images were like 200 and lower. 88% or less were 1600 ISO 1600 and lower. Then the other 12% were all over the place after that. So in practice, that's what actually happens for me. So if I had to give an answer, I'd say, yeah, ISO 1600 is a good number to stop. But I don't think in real life, I feel like when I'm out taking pictures, I don't try to stay under 1600 anymore. I just don't. Um, yeah, the 12 to 40 is enough. If you want to take one lens, that's a great lens because 12 millimeters wide enough for landscapes, cities, and that lens has a close focusing distance of like something like this. You can get really close to an object and get a really nice magnification out of it. So yeah, that would be a great lens if you're only going to take one. Um, and it's fast at f2.8, so you can do indoor architectural like cathedrals and things. All those great things in Scotland. I've never been there, but a 21.7 or longer or 75. Yeah, that's true. You know, a 20 millimeter f1.7 would be a fun little lens to just put in your pocket. I mean, it's only the size of a quarter, right? So maybe the 75 is a little bit big lens to take. If you're planning to take one lens and you end up taking two, the 75 is a big one to take with you. I'm not a big fan of the 75 for general photography personally. I rarely take it out. But that's just me, right? I just it's the focal length is the problem, not the lens. Yeah, the 17 is awesome. The 17 f1.8, um, that's a lens that if you're only going to take one prime lens, that's the lens I would take. It's not wide enough for indoor architectural cathedral things. It's fine for general photography, but if you really want to be wide, the 12 millimeter f2 is probably a better choice. Um, yeah, yeah, I know the 14 millimeter is a little smaller, a little lighter, just a little bit. But it's mainly the focal length being wider that I'm attracted to because I do vlog. Yeah, 17 and a 45, those two would be it's a perfect pair right there for traveling. Yeah. Yeah, I try to tell everybody, when I did that video about why I don't miss full frame because I bought this EM10 Mark II camera, I wasn't trying to say that full frame isn't awesome. It is. But for most people, my God, that EM10 Mark II, you'll be fine and you'll take great pictures. If you're shooting indoors all the time and you're getting paid for it, yeah, maybe a full frame will suit you better. But for most people, and that's why I switched to this camera from my Nikon. I mean, I was getting the images that I want out of this little tiny thing for 99% of the pictures that I take. And in low light, it didn't matter to me that there was a little bit of noise. Um, it cleans up just enough in post processing if I want it to, that the picture looks fine to me. Um, yeah, the 75 is weird. I haven't tried the 56, but I'm tempted by it. Uh, I'm just not sure what I would use it for, to be honest. Because I'm not really a portrait photographer. It seems like an ideal lens for portrait work. Um, Again, that's a lens I'm gonna have to wait till I have 500 bucks cash to buy it and not have to put it on my credit card. But that's gonna take a while. I just don't have a need. Um, Yeah, the 12 to 100 Pro, yeah, you get that versatility, right? Wide, that's, mid-range telephoto, but yeah, it's a beast of a lens in terms of weight. Yeah, Batman and Robin, right? Um, yeah, a little bit longer. Yeah, if you didn't, if you need to capture statues and faces of the statues, and normally you can't get very close to those, right? 40 millimeters not close enough. The 40 to 150 would have been the ideal lens to have. So I would say a 12 to 40 and a 40 to 150 would be a good combo. Just a pair of zooms. Yeah, the D750, man, that like I said, the images from that camera were magical, and I definitely uh in low light I was getting cleaner images, but that wasn't too often that I needed to shoot in low light. If I'm in low light with a camera and I'm getting paid to do it, I would use a flash. But if I don't have the option of flash, because my real estate photography, right, architectural, whatever you want to call it, I have the option of using a flash indoors. And if I'm outdoors, I have the option to use a tripod. So I don't have to worry about trying to shoot at high ISOs. I can be at low ISOs and use a flash or be on a tripod. But for event photography, you may be better suited with a full frame. Though I've seen someone shared with me their Flickr page where they did a concert, and that's a low light scenario. They did a concert with their Olympus camera and a Panasonic 35 to 100 f2.8, and the images were awesome. Very, very clean. Another person shared with me their wedding photos that they did, and they were awesome. So there's plenty of professional photographers out there using Micro Four Thirds in low light and getting great results. Um, but anyway, okay. It's a little bit of a lull here, but one last thing. Let's see. Oh yeah, I have one other link. I have the links to all those channels. I have a link to a video called 1 Hour Photo. It's a little stand-up comedy act. Oh my God, it was hilarious. Talking about photography and the 1 hour photo booth. So watch that. There's a link to it in the description below. And then there's another person. His name is Ganesh that I met. It's so random. I was out shopping for a jacket. I need to get another jacket. And I'm walking down the sidewalk and I hear somebody, Rob. And I'm like, I look around and this guy walks up and says, I know you from YouTube and I want to thank you. Your videos helped me out so much. I just had to stop and say thank you. And I said, oh, well, I appreciate that. So if you go to the community tab on my YouTube or my YouTube page, channel page, there's a picture of me and him, there. So that was really random. I've never been just spotted on the street like that before. I mean, and I was like an hour away from my house. And then the other thing is, he seems to be recognized for his photography for shooting planes. Because I posted his picture and I was like, isn't that the guy, plane spotter guy? And I says, yeah, you know him. So apparently they're awesome pictures, but he has some recognition as well. So I put a link to his Flickr page in the community or in the description below of this video. So check that out if you want to see some great shots of planes and the camera and gear that he's using. But it's all Olympus stuff. So that's all of the links there. That's all I needed to say. So anyhow, anything else? Anyone have any other questions or feedback or anything you want me to do next time in my next videos? I mean, until my EM5 Mark III comes in, I'm probably just going to vlog. you know, and shoot with that little Fuji and try and get a few thousand shots out of it and see if it's, you know, worth my time any beyond that. Oh, you know, it just occurred to me why I lost audio when I was showing that other screen. I know how to fix that for next time. All right. I don't see any other questions, so we'll wrap it up here. Um, as always, I appreciate you guys watching and joining in. It's always a lot of fun to be able to interact with you directly this way. So again, I'm going to have another one on Sunday morning. I think I'll do like 9:30 Eastern Daylight Time, you know, New York time. So if you're in another country, hopefully that works out better for you. Okay, Dan. Yeah, when the weather clears up, it's been raining cats and dogs the last couple days, so I haven't really, or it's been super cloudy, so I haven't had a chance to go do any photo walks or drive photographies. I might go tomorrow though. One last question from oh, there's two questions. Wow, another guy with the same name as me. That's funny. Robert Rogers. We got the same exact name. I would take the Pen F over the EM10 Mark II because it has a lot more customization with the color profiles. I can adjust the saturation of individual colors, and that's mainly it. And there's also some more fine tuning with the black and white photos because you can do highlight shadows, but you can also do midtones, and you can add vignette, and you have much more control over the color filters of the black and whites. You have more colors to choose from, and you can also choose the intensity of the color filter. So there's a lot more customization of the actual image taking process in the Pen F than the EM10 Mark II. Some other minor things are like you can, I think you can, I don't use it much, but you can tie the exposure to the spot. You can do spot metering, but if you move the focus point to a different spot, the metering will move with that spot. So that's kind of cool. And it just has more physical controls on it for me to handle the camera. You know, beyond just like having the exposure comp dial there on top, but there's more buttons, and I just feel more comfortable with it using it. So that's why I would choose it. If the Pen F were not available, if I could have any camera on the earth, it would be the EM10 Mark II, right? It's a great camera. Well, the upcoming EM5 Mark III would probably be my next. If I could only have one camera on earth, it would probably be the EM5 Mark III. And then the other question was, which is correct, f4 MFT depth of field, f8 on full frame, or f-stop on 25mm gives the depth of field? Okay, I'm just trying to make sure we're not saying the same thing twice. The first statement is absolutely correct. f4 on a micro four thirds give a depth of field of f8 on a full frame. That is absolutely true, accurate. An f-stop on 25mm micro four thirds lens gives the depth of field of 25. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that's incorrect. So the first one is correct. So Robert Rogers, I hope I answered that question. Oh, okay. Yeah, Robert, if you have the EM10 Mark II, I think adding a Pen F, because a Pen F really kind of stands alone in my opinion. It's not really a camera that you upgrade to. It's a camera that you buy because of the features that it has. So if you have the Pen F now, check out the black and white color filters, the black and white vignetting, the black and white highlight, shadow, and midtone adjustments. Check out the color wheel. Not the color creator, but the color wheel that you can adjust the saturation of individual colors. Those are the main things about the Pen F that kind of distinguish it. And if you like those things, I think adding a pen F to your bag is a good idea. If you don't care about those things, there's no need to upgrade to a pen F. The 20 megapixels doesn't make any difference. Yes, the extension tubes will work with the 60 millimeter, but the challenge is going to be, I don't have that lens to tell you directly, but I can tell you the challenge of using extension tubes on a macro lens is that your working distance is already pretty tight. So look at the working distance that you have now. So if you have to be this close to get the 1-to-1 magnification with the 60 millimeter, if you add an extension tube, you're going to have to get this close. So that's usually the problem, because if you look at the 60 millimeter macro lens, it's already got the extension tubes built in. That's why it's so freaking long, right? That's why that's why all the macro lenses that you see are very long already, because they're actually just kind of making the extension tubes as part of the lens instead of having to buy them separately. Of course, there's additional optics and things to get you better magnification, but yeah, so I don't recommend it. I would check the 40 MU43 forums of people that own that lens and have used extension tubes with it, and see what kind of feedback you get from them, because I don't have that lens to be able to tell you. And is the pen F, how is the pen F in the rain? I don't recommend it. I've gotten it wet before, but the problem with this pen F, when you look at the top of it, there's all these little nooks and crannies. And look at these two microphone jacks. These are like rain buckets, right? It would scare me to death to take this into the rain, because, especially the shutter button, the mode dials, there's all kinds of places for water to get trapped and get into the camera, even on the back of the camera. So I would avoid the rain at all costs with that camera, because I've never had a problem with it. But, we'll just say I got lucky, okay? Yeah, I just got lucky. I've been very lucky with rain on my cameras, because I've gotten every camera wet from rain that are not weather sealed. And I dried them out overnight. I opened up, took the battery out, and the next day they were fine. And I got to tell you that I know Tony and Chelsea did a survey of, camera repairs, people that had to send their things in. And Olympus, not one person said they had to send it in for water damage. Every other manufacturer, the user said they sent it in for water damage at one time or another, but never Olympus. But, that's, you have to take that everything off YouTube with a grain of salt, right? Oh, yeah, I told like half the audience I was leaving, but all these questions come in now. The X100F is not tack sharp or razor sharp. At wide open at f2, it is not. At close distances, as you get further away, I don't know how the optics work exactly, but as you get further away and focus on things at f2, it does seem to get sharper, right? Whatever you're taking a picture of is sharper. At f2.8, I'd say everything's pretty sharp further away, but still when you're close up, there's still a little bit of softness. Like when you're taking pictures of subjects less than 10 feet or 3 meters away from you, you're going to see softness in the image at f2 and f2.8. By the time you get to f4, though, the image is tack sharp. So if you're the kind of person that shoots at f4 or higher a lot, you don't have anything to worry about with the X100F. If you shoot close-up things at f2 and f2.8, yeah, it's soft. Clearly it is. Significantly so compared to my Olympus lenses. Am I the only one that got the PC software update for the M10 with the color wheel and the midtones adjustment? Oh, really? Did they add that to the M10, like midtones and color wheel? Are you serious? I haven't heard of that one. Man, if they add that to the M10s and all of the Olympus lines by extension, man, that's gonna make me the happiest man on earth. I'll be happier than Robin Wong. And that's setting the bar pretty high too, man. That guy's the happiest photographer on earth. Um, I'm gonna look. I checked for firmware updates the other day. I didn't see any for the M10, but I don't. I Dang it. Thank you. Sorry. Uh, is it possible to lock settings on the Olympus? I don't have a 10 Mark III. And as far as I know, they don't have the My Sets anymore, so you're not going to be able to save settings uh, and assign it to a button as far as I know. Yeah, sorry about the sound. I thought going to Bluetooth would this Bluetooth keyboard would get rid of that problem. But I think it now, well, the keyboard solved a lot of other problems I was having. Um, it was solving a lot of other problems, but the sound I think is user error. Yeah, I haven't found an update for it. But I only looked at the Olympus Japanese site. If I check again, then I'm afraid I'm going to lose audio. I think I'm losing audio when I switch over to the browser versus just using the live stream. No, the old keyboard. You don't want the old keyboard because, well, the little metal casing around the USB adapter broke off. So when you stick it into the USB port, it wiggles a little bit. It doesn't have good contact. So every time I was typing, sometimes I would get like 1,000 letters at once, and then sometimes it wouldn't type at all. So I was having more problems with it than I was just it killing the audio. Um, oh, I got this. The keyboard I bought. I got this. This is a Logitech. I think you recommended a Logitech to me last time, didn't you? But I like that it has all these. I wanted a full size keyboard, but I like that it has. Crap, I'm all backwards. But it has Bluetooth. It has USB. It has whatever that is, and then it has the play, mute, and everything buttons right there. So and it's full mechanical. But I did notice my fingers get a little tired if I type for too long, because now I'm dealing with a full mechanical keyboard instead of like the little chiclet thing I had before. where the keystroke is only about that high, but these things I got to really push. Any known problems with Wi-Fi on the M12 after firmware? I haven't had any problems, no. And I have connected to it recently, actually, since the firmware update. But I don't use those apps at all, hardly. The only reason I use the apps is to sync the clocks between all the cameras. Because when you connect the camera to your phone, it automatically updates the time and date on the camera. And then all the cameras are synced, and that helps me sync all the cameras up when I do these vlogs and tutorials and things. What's the sharpest lens I ever used? Wow, you know, I'd have to say this 25 millimeter to my eye has been the sharpest from the images. I don't use this lens for anything really but video, but when I've used it for photography, I was really impressed with how sharp it is. The wide open, like at f1.8, because once you get to f4 and f5.6, they're all really tack sharp. But this one, the 12 millimeter f2, has been tack sharp. The 75-1.8, it's supposed to be tack sharp, but you have to get so far away from your subjects. You know, a lot of that sharpness is kind of mitigated with atmosphere, right? But the 25 and the 12, when you have to get close to the subject wide open, yeah, really sharp. I've never used the 25 f1.4. I just don't see the need to go that wide or that fast right now. I kind of prioritize size and weight over lens speed at like f1.4. You know, if maybe an f1.2 might be worth it in terms of getting more speed. That's 2/3 of a stop, but 1.4 is barely a third of a stop difference from what I have now, and I don't see a need to go 1.4 anyway. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Mark. I thought it was you that recommended the Logitech. I do love Logitech, so I made sure I got another one. It's supposed to be a silent mechanical keyboard, but it's not. But it's awesome anyway, and I got a great deal on it. I got it like 40% off. No, Mark, I'm using the 25 millimeter right now, and I'm about arm's length away from it, just to give you some idea of the field of view. I use the 12 millimeter a lot for vlogging. Yeah, the 75 is supposed to be really, really sharp, and I think if you're close to the subjects, you can see that difference. But like I said, the 75 is generally a portrait lens, so you have to get about 10 feet or 15 feet back from your subject or subjects, plural, to get them in frame. And by that time, like I said, a lot of that sharpness is kind of mitigated because of the distance. And that's the thing about looking at MFT charts and sharpness tests and things, is those are in a lab, and it's very different than in the real world when you actually go out to use these lenses. And the 75, like I said, in a lab is tack sharp, and I've never had a problem with it. But in real life, when you have to actually use it, yeah, you have to get kind of far away. Same thing with like the 60 millimeter macro lens. When you're up close, that thing is tack sharp, but if you try to use it for other things, and you have to get kind of far away, it kind of loses its luster a little bit, and you might be better served with the 45 millimeter. Yeah, when the audio is working, I know. Now that I know exactly what the problem is when I go over to my browser in this window and start typing, it cuts the audio over here. So I got to figure out why that is. But okay, I seriously should go. I mean, 2 hours and 15-minute live stream. I mean, I'd love to stay all night with you guys, but you know, when people go to replay my live streams, they're like crying because they're like, man, I gotta sift through over 2 hours of video to find that one little nugget I'm looking for. And I'd like to do a highlights live stream. I'll probably have to do one now because this is over 2 hours. So, uh, yeah, Marco, I'm sorry you're so late. I really have to cut it off now. If you have a question, I'll be happy to answer it right now. But otherwise, I need to go. I think Marco, you were doing some. You were asking me about some real estate photography before, right? Like what lens to use. And yeah, for the audio, Mark was saying the audio is good. I'm using that Fifine microphone that I reviewed in a recent video. This is an awesome little mic. Oh, the new Olympus workspace is allowing you to... Okay, that I'll have to check. I'll have to check. But okay, you guys have a good evening or morning or day, okay? Thanks again for joining. Again, Sunday morning my time, I'll be back out here.